Michael Popok, Legal AF. End of day one in the E Jean Carroll punitive damage case against Donald Trump for statements he made against her that were defamatory back in his presidency. And now we've got reporting, and I'm going to focus this hot take on the jury selection process. Who are the jurors, as much as we know about them? Why are they anonymous? Who made that decision? And what is the jury going to be focused on, and what aren't they going to be focused on based on prior rulings of the court? And then finally, the acting out of Donald Trump in front of the prospective jury because he can't help himself. And yes, there was acting out. There was lots of acting out today. Acting out improperly by lawyers for Donald Trump. The lead trial lawyer, Alina Habba, getting chastised by the judge for continuing to argue before the jury was even present over whether there was going to be a delay in the trial because Donald Trump presumably, allegedly, had to go to some funeral on Thursday or not. Judge got tired and found Alina Habba tiresome and told her to sit down. Another lawyer for Donald Trump, who's not even admitted in the case, nor admitted in the Southern District of Florida's federal court, stood up and started to make objections out of the blue like some sort of jack-in-the-box. The judge said, "Are you admitted in this courtroom? Are you a counsel of record in this case?" And Boris Epshteyn said no, and the judge said, "Sit down, take a seat." And then Donald Trump acted out in front of this jury in this jury selection process. Let me focus on that, and then I'll get to the jury. In the jury selection process, you start with a panel. We call it a veneer of maybe 50 or 60 people. And then the judge does most of the heavy lifting in federal court. That's why the jury was selected in federal court in 3 hours. I've been involved with jury selection process that takes a week, can take a month in some state court procedures. But federal court, the ability for the lawyers to conduct what we call voir dire, to question the jurors, the potential jurors, is very limited. And even more limited in a case like this where the jury is anonymous. The judge did most of the talking. He asked the questions of the group, starting with 50 people that were brought down in batches of 10 or 12. And he asked them to stand up or sit down depending upon the answers to the questions. Who's seen The Apprentice? Stand up. Who thinks the election was stolen? Stand up. Right? Who was in favor of a QAnon and Proud Boys? Stand up, sit down. By the time they were done with the standing up and sitting down, and then each side gets 3 strikes to take out jurors, so to speak, they were left with a jury of 9 plus a couple of alternates and ready to go for opening statements today, first day opening statements, and the testimony of E Jean Carroll starting tomorrow. Now let's talk about this jury. And then the acting out by Donald Trump in front of it. Donald Trump couldn't help himself when the judge was asking a question. Who among the jurors, not the parties, believes that Donald Trump has been unfairly prosecuted or litigated against? And some of the jurors stood up, and Donald Trump raised a half-hearted hand, and the judge noted it in front of the jury and said, "Yeah, we know where you stand." And Donald Trump put his hand down like a chastised 6-year-old. The fact that he would even joke in front of a future jury where there should be solemnity and dignity in a process where a plaintiff has already been established that she was victimized as a sexual abuse victim and a rape victim, and he thinks it's funny, like a child, to put his hand up and say, "Oh, I did it. I think it's an unfair trial, Judge." Judge said, "Put your hand down. We know where you stand." That's not the only time Donald Trump acted out in front of the judge. When the judge finally got the jury in place, Donald Trump's antics continued. He shook his head vigorously, looked annoyed when the judge instructed, because that's what judges do wearing the black robe. They get to instruct on the law. And the judge instructed the jury, "You are to assume for the purposes of this trial that E Jean Carroll was raped, was sexually abused in the dressing room of Bergdorf Goodman in the spring of 1996, and that she's been defamed as a result of his denials, and we're here about damages." And when he got to that she was sexually assaulted by Donald Trump in that dressing room, he shook his head. Couldn't even control himself then. That is not helping him in front of the jury, right? Just like his sheepish little, "Oh, I think I'm being improperly, I think this is a witch hunt." That's not helping. All that does is piss off a jury. When you're not authentic and you're not truthful and you don't honor the process and honor ultimately the jury, and you're being disrespectful to the jury, and the jury senses that, you are dead before you even take the stand. You start mocking the process the way Donald Trump is doing, right? Mocking the judge indirectly or directly, you've lost the jury. There's a reason that when the marshal or bailiff says all rise, we rise for the entry of the jury. Because in our system of justice, the jury plays the most important role in the room by the time you get to a trial, not even the judge. Everything is centered around the jury. That's why we rise for the jury. And if you annoy the jury, piss off the jury, insult the jury, and now that they bought in and they're going to be in this trial for 3 or 4 days, the process, you're cooked. Donald Trump is cooked in front of a jury that I'm now going to describe, an anonymous one. So I don't know names. I only know numbers, gender, and the like, right? We got a banker. We got a teacher, retired. We got a transit worker, retired. We got a doctor, a publicist, and a broker, and a couple of other people. That sounds like a good cross-section of New York, all different socioeconomic groups covered. I'll get you some more data about how many male and how many females on there. The last time we had 9, we had 6 men and 3 women. I'll get you a better count. But that is the demographics of this group. A couple of retirees, some of them in the public sector, with teachers and transit workers represented, doctor, publicist, broker, and the like. They are under the protection and the watchful eye of the federal marshals, because this judge has already determined, and the lawyers for Donald Trump have not refuted it, that Donald Trump is a risk to influence and pollute the jury, to sow chaos, to insult them. And they need protection from that. They're not going to be sketched by the sketch artist. There's no video here, no audio here. We're in federal court. They're going to be taken from their seats to their deliberation room, to their lunch breaks, and even entry and exit from courthouse under the watchful eye of marshals. It's a good way to start a trial. It's a good signal that the guy over there, the defendant over there with the long red tie and the clown hair, might be a threat to you as you start your deliberation process. That's a problem. And that's why the acting out by Donald Trump is not helping him. It's only hurting him. He tried to blame his prior lawyer, who he fired, who I think fired him, Joe Tacopina, who lost the first E Jean Carroll case, for not letting him testify. Well, I wanted to testify. Joe Tacopina wouldn't let me. Social media post. Wrong. That's not what happened. Joe Tacopina told the judge that his client was thinking about testifying, and the judge gave him time to do it and said if he doesn't show up by tomorrow, he's waived his right. And Tacopina looked at the judge and said, well, what am I supposed to do? You know who I'm representing, Judge. I have no control. That's not Joe Tacopina recommending he not attend the trial, right? And now he's attending the trial, but only halfway. Another acting out by Donald Trump today. Left at 3 o'clock, jury went till 4:30, which meant he left in the middle of a closing argument, probably by his own lawyers, to head off to New Hampshire, right? Because he's trying to win the presidency somehow. While he's fighting off another punitive damage case, seeking tens of millions of dollars against him in New York State federal court. Got a good jury here. Got a jury that's going to see right through Donald Trump. Him going every day to trial is not to his advantage. More of Donald Trump in a Manhattan federal jury setting is not better, right? That's not his problem. Less would be better. When he wasn't there, they convicted him. I'm sorry, they judged that he had committed sexual assault. It's a civil case. When he is there and he acts out and gesticulates, no, I didn't do it. That's unfair. I didn't rape her. All you're doing is insulting the victim in front of the jury, and you're losing credibility before you even take the stand. That's what I counsel my clients against doing. If you're going to be there, the jury's eyes are fixed on you, especially if your name is Donald Trump, right? Every move, you got to quiet your mind and quiet your body in a federal court proceeding. They look at everything, right? I've been in a trial where in the middle of something, I rubbed my eyes because I had red eyes, and a press in the back of the room said, oh, Michael Popok reacted to some terrible testimony against his client because he rubbed his eyes. I mean, I know the media at times is looking for something to talk about. We try to talk about more serious things that matter here. How you treat a jury, how you respect a jury, and how you don't disrespect them, especially when the trial is about sexual assault and rape. Can't think of anything more serious than that. Murder, sure, certainly up there. Top 2. And if that's how Donald Trump is going to act on day 1 of the trial, a trial that's going to go 4 or 5 days, it's going to get worse. We saw a version of this with Rudy Giuliani and his defamation case against Ruby Freeman and Shane Moss's defamation case against him, for defaming them, the Fulton County election workers, saying that they committed voter fraud when they had not, and got doxxed and violently attacked and suffered psychological injury and damage and got awarded $148 million. Every day, Rudy didn't testify, but he acted out inside the courtroom, outside the courtroom, on the steps of the courtroom, things that ended up being filtered back in to the courtroom. Trust me, Robbie Kaplan representing E Jean Carroll and their lawyers are looking and scrubbing the social media and statements made by Donald Trump on the way into the courtroom, while he was in the courtroom, while he's in New Hampshire about this case. And they're going to bring it to the judge's attention. It's up to Judge Kaplan to protect the jury from Donald Trump. Sure, he's got a due process right to defend himself, but do it properly. Do it without being insulting, without being a misogynist and a narcissist. Good luck. Right? And if he thought the change of counsel to go to his old standby, Alina Habba, who's constantly screwing up in every case she's ever handled for him, in a way that any other lawyer would be fired and sued for malpractice, but not for Donald Trump, because he doesn't have a lot of options. There's nobody lining up to represent Donald Trump. He's left with a bunch of solo practitioners in tiny little firms who have nothing left to lose except their bar licenses and representing him. Alina Habba has screwed up so many times in the case, I can't even, we do hot takes on it almost daily. Screwed up again. They're all complaining this time around on social media about, Shane Crowley, the lawyer for E Jean Carroll, who did the opening statement. She was a federal law clerk. She clerked for Judge Kaplan. Judge Kaplan presided over her wedding. The judges sometimes officiate. All may be true. But at some point, Judge Kaplan revealed that. And at some point, you can go look on a website and you know who Shane Crowley clerked for. And if you had a problem with it, Alina Habba and Donald Trump, then you raised that 3 years ago. And you say, Judge, I don't think, based on your relationship with my opposing counsel, I don't think there's an appearance of propriety here. I think there's a disqualifying grounds. Now, by the way, under the case law, they'd be wrong, but it could lead the judge to do something. Well, I am sort of close to Shane Crowley. Maybe I shouldn't do the case. Or no, I'm sorry. If that was whoever clerked for me is not grounds enough for me to disqualify myself. But it would have been an issue 3 years ago. Just as Alina Habba screwed up, forgot her client was a former president and didn't raise presidential immunity and waived that in front of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals because she didn't properly raise immunity. It's always a problem of somebody else's making on the Trump side. We didn't get the DNA on the dress related to E Jean Carroll because you didn't properly ask for it. And you let the time pass and you waive that. We didn't get an expert, right? Because you were late in disclosing your experts. We have rules in federal court that need to be followed. Everybody, right? The rain falls equally on the poor and the royals. Everybody's got to do it the same way. You don't get special dispensation because he used to be the president of the United States and you got a lawyer who doesn't know what he's doing or she's doing in federal court. So what are they left with? They're left with shadow puppets in front of the jury. Oh, I didn't do that bad thing in Bergdorf Goodman. You can tell because my face says it. This is a witch hunt. You can tell because I put my hand up. Come on. Grow up and be professional. Supposed to be, the lawyers are supposed to be officers of the court. Donald Trump, I understand. Donald Trump wanted to speak to the jury and the prospective jury. The judge says, over my dead body. Or no, he said, if he gets sworn in under oath, maybe I'll let him. But not before that. We'll continue to follow all the fireworks, the shenanigans, the acting out, the attempts to be abusive. On the E Jean Carroll case, day one place, MeidasTouch Network. Don't change that dial. And on this YouTube. For Legal AF, the podcast we do every Wednesday and Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and then on the audio podcast platform of your choice. If you like these kind of updates, this kind of analysis from a lawyer who knows what he's talking about at the intersection of law, politics, and justice, you reach the right place. Give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. It helps, keeps the lights on. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Thanks so much for watching. We're only a few subscribers short of 2 million subs. Please subscribe right now to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel for free and help us grow this unapologetically pro-democracy network.